explosive storms that bring torrential rain, flooding, and screaming winds. Typhoon is the term given to hurricanes that form in the western Pacific Ocean. We see very strong typhoons in the western Pacific, more and more commonly than that people may think. Hurricanes and typhoons are some of the most massive storms on the planet.
The formation of tropical cyclones is a natural phenomenon. It is used by the Earth to attain balance or equilibrium, transferring energy from the equator to colder parts of the Earth. They are called by various names. In the Northwest Pacific, we call them typhoons. In the Indian Ocean and Southwest Pacific, they're called cyclones. And in the Atlantic, they're called hurricanes. They are often found to form within the Intertropical Convergence Zone or ITCZ or the Northeast and Southeast trade winds meet.
Typhoons form just like how ordinary rain clouds form. They start from the evaporation of water molecules from the ocean because this moist air is warm. They travel upwards until they meet with cold air. At this point, they start to condense and form clouds resulting in rain showers. The clouds dissipate and vanish after precipitation is complete with a very active system. Clouds can move together into largest cluster of thunderstorms. These cluster of clouds are areas of low pressure in the atmosphere. When combined with warm ocean waters, typically over 26 degrees Celsius, they join two of the key ingredients in transforming ordinary clouds into deadly typhoons.
Converging winds also have the movement of warm moist air from the ocean upwards and contribute to the circulation of typhoon. With an organized circulation, the low pressure area becomes a tropical depression. As a tropical depression drifts, it may encounter areas of the ocean where it is exceptionally warm. This will further drive the increase of its circulation, transforming it into a typhoon. And when conditions are ideal and system starts to rotate even faster and now on a clear center, the eye of the typhoon.
Typhoon information produced by Joint Typhoon Warning Center located in Hawaii, USA. This information is intended for use by US government agencies but is accessible from the general public. The information is updated every 6 hours. Only maximum sustained wind is expressed while central pressure is not because the data for central pressures is already measured for tropical cyclone.
The study in forecast of Earth's weather and extreme climate events is also supported by Earth's observation satellites, parameters that can provide information to understand and predict extreme events are storm and surface wind speed and direction, sea surface temperature, rainfall, water vapor flows, future humidity. The prediction, early detection, and monitoring of events as hurricanes and typhoon has clear benefits in terms in improved preparedness and emergency management when they reach populated areas.
In the Philippines, there is PAG-ASA or Philippine Atmospheric Physical and Astronomical Services Administration. It is the National Meteorological and Hydrological Services Agency of the Republic of the Philippines, mandated to provide protection against natural calamities and to ensure the safety, well-being, and economic security of all the people, and for the promotion of national progress, by the undertaking scientific and technological services in meteorology, hydrology, climatology, astronomy, and other geophysical sciences. In the most recent and reliable record, most tropical cyclones which attain a pressure of 900 millibar or less occurred in the western North Pacific Ocean. The strongest tropical cyclone recorded worldwide, as measured by minimum central pressure, was Typhoon Tip, which reached a pressure of 870 millibar on October 12, 1979. Typhoon Tip, known in the Philippines as Typhoon Warning, was the largest and most intense tropical cyclone ever recorded. The 43rd tropical depression, 19th tropical storm, and 12th typhoon of the 1979 Pacific typhoon season. Tip developed out of disturbance from the monsoon through on October 4 near Pohnpei. Initially a tropical storm to the northwest hindered the development and motion of Tip through after the storm tracked farther north. Tip was able to intensify after passing Guam. Tip rapidly intensified and reached peak winds of 305 km per hour. In a worldwide record low sea level pressure of 870 millibar on October 12. At its peak strength, it was also the largest tropical cyclone on record, with a wind diameter of 2,200 km. Tip slowly weakened as it continues west-northwestward and later turned to northeast. In response to an approaching trough, the typhoon made landfall in southern Japan on October 19 and became an extratropical cyclone shortly.
On October 23, 2015, Hurricane Patricia attempted the strongest 1-minute sustained winds on record at 215 mph. This is the strongest hurricane ever recorded in history, and it's heading straight for Mexico. A well-defined eye developed within an intense central overcast, and Patricia grew from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane in just 24 hours, a mere record pace. It is the most intense tropical cyclone on record in Western Hemisphere, and the strongest globally in terms of 1-minute maximum sustained winds. Hurricane Patricia affects in Mexico, where terremotos, however, the affected areas will predominantly rural, mitigating a potential large-scale disaster. Total damage was estimated to be in excess of 5.4 billion pesos, with agriculture and infrastructure comprising the majority of losses. Flooding partially associated with remnant moisture from Patricia inflicted $52.5 million in damage across.
In every tropical cyclone, there is a storm surge. The hurricane's force winds can top 200 miles per hour. The rain can feel like nails hitting your skin, but hurricanes can also cause a huge rise in water levels called a storm surge. It can be devastating. A storm surge, storm flood, or storm tide is a coastal flood or tsunami-type phenomenon of rising water commonly associated with low-pressure weather systems, such as tropical cyclones and strong extratropical cyclones, the severity of which is affected by the shallowness or orientation of the water body relative to storm path as well as the timing of tides. Most casualties during tropical cyclones occur as the result of storm surges. It is a measure of the rise of water beyond what would be expected by the normal movement related to tides. The threat of a storm surge and the severity of it is forecasted using these stations. They measure the changes in the water level along the coast, calculating the wind speed, taking into account the tide, the location of the storm, and the size and speed of the hurricanes. Until now, communicating the threat of storm surge was hard to do.
Hurricane Irma was an extremely powerful and catastrophic Cape Verde hurricane, the strongest observed in the Atlantic in terms of maximum sustained winds since Irma, and the strongest storm on record to exist in the open Atlantic region. Irma was the first Category 5 hurricane to strike the Leeward Islands on record, followed by Hurricane Maria 2 weeks later. It is the second costliest Caribbean hurricane on record, after Maria. The nine-named storm, fourth hurricane, second major hurricane, and the first Category 5 hurricane of the 2017 Atlantic hurricane season. Irma caused widespread and catastrophic damage throughout its long lifetime, particularly in the northeastern Caribbean and the Florida Keys. It was also the most intense hurricane to strike the continental United States since Katrina in 2005. The first major hurricane to make landfall in Florida since Wilma in the same year, and the first Category 4 hurricane to strike the state since Charley in 2004. Irma developed from a tropical wave near Cape Verde on August 30. Favorable conditions allowed Irma to rapidly intensify into a Category 3 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson wind scale by late on August 31. However, the storm's intensity fluctuated between Categories 2 and 3 for the next several days. Due to a series of eye wall replacement cycles, on September 4, Irma resumes intensifying, becoming a Category 5 hurricane by early on the next day and acquiring annular characteristic on September 6. Irma peaked with 100 mph or 285 km/h winds and a minimum pressure of 914 HPA, making it the second most intense tropical cyclone worldwide in 2017. Behind only Hurricane Maria and the strongest worldwide in the 2017 In terms of wind speed, another eye wall replacement cycle caused Irma to weaken back to a Category 4 hurricane. But the storm attained Category 5 status before making landfall in Cuba. Although land interaction weakened Irma to a Category 2 storm, the system re-intensified to Category 4 status as it crossed the warm waters of Straits of Florida. Before making landfall on Cudjoe Key with winds at 130 mph or 215 km/h on September 10, Irma weakened to Category 3 status prior to another landfall in Florida on Marco Islands. Later that day, the system degraded into a remnant low over Alabama and ultimately dissipated on September 13 over Missouri. The storm caused catastrophic damage in Barbuda, St. Barthélemy, St. Martin, Angela, and the Virgin Islands as a Category 5 hurricane. The hurricane caused at least 134 deaths, 1 in Angela, 1 in Barbados, 3 in Barbuda, 4 in the British Virgin Islands, 10 in Cuba, 11 in the French West Indies, 1 in Haiti, 3 in Puerto Rico, 4 on the Dutch sides of Sint Maarten, 92 in the contiguous United States, and 4 in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Hurricane Irma was the top Google search term in the US and globally in 2017. Irma set multiple records of intensity, especially as easterly longitudes, time spent of such an intensity, and its intensity of landfall. When Irma reached Category 5, intensity with winds of 175 mph or 280 km/h at 11:45 UTC on September 5 at 507.7 degrees watts, it became the easternmost Atlantic hurricane this strength on record. Upon reaching peak intensity, Irma also became the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the Atlantic Ocean outside in the Caribbean Sea and Gulf of Mexico, as well as the strongest Atlantic hurricane since Wilma in terms of maximum sustained winds and the most intense.
The hospital has also been badly damaged. A doctor on holiday in Spain has been in touch with colleagues there.
There's still some fog.
Approximately 20 tropical cyclones enter the Philippine area of responsibility yearly, of which 10 will be typhoons with 5 being destructive. The Philippines is the most exposed country in the world tropical storm according to the Time magazine article in 2013.
Luwag na kayo to. Dili, andiri basa to ba? Dili, andiri basa to ba? Kanapa ka na ho? Wag biyaya na gani.
Last November 3 to 11, 2013.
Good evening. Tonight, the world is responding to a disaster in an island nation as we are still learning just how bad the situation is in the Philippines, though it's now clear it's worse than.
The United Nations is using satellite imagery to help coordinate the emergency response. Hundreds of communities in this red zone in the Philippines had damaging winds in excess of 120 kilometers per hour. It was double that near the eye of the storm.
Well, we've been keeping a very close eye on Typhoon Haiyan over the last few days as it's made its way towards the Philippines, and it always was forecast to be a very powerful and violent typhoon.
Pinaghandaan man ng husto ang pinakamalakas na bagyo sa mundo ngayong taon. Ang hindi inakala ang matinding hagupit nito sa mga dinaanan nitong probinsya. Lalo pat hindi lang isa o dalawang beses itong naglandfall, kundi 6 na beses sa 4 na mga probinsya.
Nandito tayo ngayon sa may pier ng Tacloban at napakalakas na ng hangin, pero hindi pa po tumatama ang sentro ng bagyo dito sa bahagi ng Tacloban. Ito po ay yung papalapit pa lamang na bagyo.
The deadliest Philippine typhoon on record, Haiyan.
Typhoon Haiyan, known as Super Typhoon Yolanda in the Philippines, was one of the strongest tropical cyclone ever recorded. On making landfall, Haiyan devastated portions of Southeast Asia, particularly the Philippines. It is the deadliest Philippine typhoon on record, killing at least 6,300 people in that country alone. In terms of JTWC, or Joint Typhoon Warning Center, estimated 1-minute sustained winds, Haiyan is tied with Meranti for being the strongest landfalling tropical cyclone on record. In January 2014, bodies were still being found. Haiyan originated from an area of low pressure several hundred kilometers east-southeast of Pohnpei in the Federated States of Micronesia on November 2, 2013. Tracking generally westward, environmental conditions favored tropical cyclogenesis, and the system developed into a tropical depression the following day. After becoming a tropical storm and attaining the name Haiyan at 000 UTC on November 4, the system began a period of rapid intensification that brought it to typhoon intensity by 1,800 UTC on November 5. By November 6, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center assessed the system as a Category 5 equivalent super typhoon on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. The storm passed over the island of Cayamel in Palau shortly after attaining this strength.